Hi everyone, it's the start to the week 2 vlog, and so far I have not read anything because I had the deadline this morning and I went to course introduction, so it hasn't happened yet. It is Tuesday evening and I'm soon gonna go off to bed and watch a little bit of La Christ again, but I wanted to check in once before I went to bed because I have been reading quite a bit of Adam Bede today and also of The Turn of the Screw. So today has been a pretty good reading day. I've started reading book 2, book 2 described in this book. I love the way that the second book of Adam Bede starts. It just sort of is George Eliot describing why she's looking at the people or the characters that she is focusing on, why she hasn't focused on sort of glamorous people who make all of the right decisions, looking at the small people, looking at normal human beings and their everyday interactions rather than something really dramatic and something always life-changing. And I think because of that there's a sort of recognition in these characters. It's interesting to see the way that these characters are changing. So we have Adam, who is the carpenter, a really strong man who has really clear opinions, and he's pretty much admired by everyone. And then we have Dinah, who is the woman preacher, and she is, on the one hand, she's really beautiful and admired. On the other hand, she is doing the preaching and has a lot of negativity directed at her. And then we have Hetty, who is another member of the family that Dinah belongs to. Hetty is sort of the opposite of Dinah. She is also really beautiful, but she's much more flighty and superficial in her approach to life. And then we have Adam's brother, who is Seth, and he is similarly to Hetty. He is sort of the weaker version of Adam. He has a lot more indecisiveness. So these 4 characters seem to be the main core of this book so far, at least in the first book, and I'm looking forward to seeing sort of the way that their interactions continue, especially now that Dinah has gone back to her home, so she is not staying with her aunt anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see if she comes back to the story or if she's gone for good. I've been working a lot on this today because I've been just really enjoying the knitting of this and I haven't been wanting to put it down. Hi everyone, it is now Wednesday the 9th and it is the evening and close to night of Wednesday, and I just finished The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, and I have to say I was not a big fan. I think, well, I've pretty much touched on the things that I didn't like about this, but the main thing is that even though it's a ghost story, it doesn't feel very thrilling to me. I think the reason it doesn't feel thrilling is because it feels unrealistic. First, there's sightings of ghosts that the adults in the house just take for granted as fact, and the children, their interactions with the ghosts and their sort of bad behavior is also just sort of accepted, and the adults seem to be afraid of the kids for most of the book. And even though a lot of this book could have been solved just by having a proper conversation with the kids, the result is just sort of like, what happened, why? Like, I don't really understand why the end was the way it was. I don't feel like I could understand the hesitation of the governess in just sort of talking with the kids and making demands of them rather than just accepting their whims. I've probably read a lot of other classics that have unrealistic dramas within them, but this book somehow just didn't work for me really.
And so I just picked up pen and paper and just kind of put together this top 10 list.
Today is Thursday the 10th of October. Yesterday evening I finished The Turn of the Screw finally, which is nice that I can finally start a new book. And I picked up from my Victober TBR A Struggle for Fame by Charlotte Riddell, which just arrived in the mail I think yesterday or the other day. I started reading this in the morning, and it follows a girl or a young woman whose mother passes away, and then her father and herself have to move to a new place and start over. They've also lost their fortune, so I think in part it's going to be something similar to North and South in that there is sort of personal tragedy alongside a change of class and circumstance, and that this book is looking at the way that she is adapting to a new life and her struggle to make something of herself. It appears from the back that she wants to become a novelist. So yes, I think that the premise of this sounds really good, and the opening of it is set in October as well, which is nice. It's always nice to have to read a book during the same time that it's set. Hi everyone, it is Friday the 11th of October. So today I have mainly been reading Vanishing Fleece by Clara, which is a non-fiction book about knitting and sort of, well, it is mainly about wool, the creation of wool yarn, and the author is sort of going through all of the journey in the creation of wool yarn from shearing the sheep to the dyeing and to the processing and spinning and all of the various steps in order to create a wool yarn. And I thought that this book would be perfect to read alongside Knit and Listen, which we are obviously doing throughout the month of October, to read a little bit of knitting related nonfiction alongside. And so I'm now almost 50% into the book and loving it so far. But that is the main reading I've been doing today. I've also read a little bit of A Struggle for Fame by Charlotte Riddell, which is I've just finished the first chapter, I think it is, but the first chapter just talks about the daughter and father moving from Ireland to England, and they have to first go on a long boat ride and then on a train journey. And on the train, sort of in their room, they're sitting with a lot of other passengers, some who are also moving to England from Ireland. The interaction between the daughter on the one hand and the other person moving from Ireland is interesting. They're both sort of disliking each other based on their first impressions of each other, so I find that really fun. Hi everyone, today is Sunday and it is specifically the 13th of October, and right now it is about noontime. So the morning I was listening to Adam Bede and continuing with my knitting. I'm still doing the work before you split the body and the sleeves. I'm not very far into it, even though we're halfway through the month. So most likely I will continue to work on that in November, but that happens. I have to be realistic. So yes, I've been listening to Adam Bede this morning, and I've now started the third part, or the third book. So the Adam Bede is divided into, I think, 6 books. And so I've just started the third. It does feel like there's quite a lot of humor in Eliot's writing that wasn't very noticeable to me in the beginning, definitely, but it is coming through the more I read of this and get to know these characters and how they think. For example, Bede is someone who is very, I think dreamy is one of the ways to describe her. She is easy to sort of just to let her mind wander with possibilities of the world, even though they are not very realistic, and there's a big chance that these expectations will be disappointed, because we also see the different side when the man that she is in love with is of a much higher standing in the community, and so you also see things from his point of view, and how he is sort of trying to dissuade her from thinking that they will ever be married, that their relationship will never last, that he likes her mostly for her beauty, honestly. But when he actually meets her, he has a hard time saying no to her because of her beauty and the way that it affects him. It's quite funny and intelligent, I think, is another thing I feel. She's very introspective and has sort of a clear view into these characters and their inner core. And then I've been listening a little bit to Great Expectations by Charles Dickens also this morning, and again, I am loving it. I feel like I like this more in terms of its quality and George Eliot's wonderful writing in the portrayal of these characters and everything. So I think this is very masterfully done, but with this one I think I enjoy the story more, and I like the characters as well, although not all of them are likable, but there's a kind of liveliness to this book that has drawn me in very quickly. The last part that I've just read is when he is forced to go to an older woman who is really unhappy. It seems like she's been jilted at the altar because she is wearing a wedding dress, and it appears that she's been wearing it for a long time. So he is forced to go to this woman and to play in front of her, and he's like, I can't just play in this strange place with this strange woman. It doesn't really feel very natural. And so in the end, he has sort of a conversation with this woman, and also to one of her other, I think it is like a maid in the house. He is forced instead to play cards with the maid, and the whole scene and the way that the woman reacts to Pip's words, just, I don't know, there's something about this book that really pulls me in. And later today I'm going to be going out to grab a coffee with my friend and possibly look into the bookstore, because it's not often that I'm in sort of the shopping district area of the town. It's not really a place that I enjoy being in, so I don't really, even though I pass through town regularly when I'm going to school, it's not an area that I usually tend to stay and walk around in. One thing I would really like is to find a biography of Charles Dickens or George Eliot. I think it would be a nice complimentary reading. Probably not something that I will finish in October or even start in October, but I'm thinking it would have been a nice thing to pick up for Nonfiction November, which is coming up. And yeah, we'll talk more about that when it's actually here, because I have plans. If I don't update you anymore today, then again, I hope you have enjoyed this weekly vlog of Victober. Let me know how your Victober is going. Have you finished anything, and did you enjoy it? Have you read Dickens, and have you had a complicated relationship with Dickens? I would love to know. I will wrap it up here, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. Bye.